Hi, Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so excited that we got to meet. And as you know, I just finished your book and I'm just out of my mind over this book. So let me start by introducing you and showing people the book. First of all, I think it has the best title ever in this space, Raising Other People's Children. I mean, that's the thing. That's the whole thing right
We
there.
do.
You summed it up, girl. And I want to dive in and talk about some of the things that I pulled out of the book. And especially this episode is getting us ready for the holidays. Here we are in
Yes.
November. The holidays are looming, they're bearing down, and they bring so much to us as second
Oh,
mothers,
yeah.
so much weight with all of the things that we're juggling. And thinking about what to do for November, I immediately thought, definitely you, um, because you have dealt with so many things over so many years. So let me share a little bit of your bio. First of all, you've been in the space with traumatized children for more than 40 years, which is incredible. You've been a juvenile court probation officer, a social worker, a group home parent, a criminal prosecutor, a nonprofit volunteer, a board member, and an attorney with your own practice. Is that all? Is that all? Did I miss anything?
Well, the stepmother part, but other than that,
Well, I'm getting to that. We're just doing the professional part
oh
now.
yes, okay.
I'm exhausted. I need to go lie down. I
I
mean,
I I have career ADD. That's all I can tell
wow.
you.
Well, it's amazing. And then, so you've been a foster parent and a step parent.
Yes.
You say you managed to collect. You managed to collect 7 children and 10 grandchildren, but I know you've parented many other children along the way because you've had foster children who did not remain with the family. There's some
Right.
things in the book about raising a friend's child for a while, a grandchild living with you. So, one of the things we do at adoptive parents retreats is we ask people to write down how the names of all the children they have parented. Do you know how many children you have parented?
20 or so
Yeah.
kids in and out, short term, just straight, anywhere from 24 hours to 2 weeks.
A single foster parent, then a stepmom, and then 10 grandchildren, and now
Yes.
writing books, blogging. We're talking about the holidays today, and I'll put up some links along with this link because I saw on your blog uh, you have some blogs specifically about how to prepare for the holidays, which are very, very helpful. So I have tried to pull some of my favorite gems out of your book, although, as I already told you before we started this recording, I want to do more interviews with you because there's just too much in here to pack. You say things that just make me laugh out loud and encourage me. Uh, one of the things I always say, my first book, uh, I always say is a book of my mistakes because after adopting older children, I wrote a book about adopting older children. And I basically wrote down my 10 biggest mistakes.
Mhm.
And I love that you use a quote in your book: an expert is a person who has made all the mistakes that can be made in a very narrow field. That's us.
Yes. That is it.
A very narrow field where like 1% of people do what we do. And we've made all the mistakes. So we're experts,
Yes.
right? Um,
We know what we're doing in that field.
Yes. And another thing I love about your book so much is you take the pressure off of being the perfect parent. In fact, I wrote down, you said, I am not patient, seldom tactful, and rarely as empathetic as I need to be. We are best friends. We are best friends. Oh my
Um,
word.
I say that I hope that's the takeaway from my book, is that people reading through it will understand that if a left brain, impatient, empathy challenged lawyer can do this, then they can do it.
Well, your book is awesome, and what I love about it is that it's all that things, and you really help us put things in perspective. So let's talk about the holidays. We are a week from Thanksgiving. Christmas is bearing down, and I personally always feel a lot of stress
Oh,
in
yes.
preparing for the holidays.
Yep.
On one hand, I'm joyfully anticipating them, but I have learned since becoming a second mother and raising other people's children that everyone does not necessarily have my same feelings towards the holidays, and that things aren't always going to be the way I hope. And in fact, they can be, you know, really hard sometimes. So, one of the first things I wanted to ask you about that is in your section on trauma in the book, and having read so many things on trauma, I also found that chapter so concise and helpful. Like, just read that chapter if you want to understand trauma instead of reading all of the volumes that are out there. But one thing you said I've never thought about, which is coping with their memories takes up much of the emotional energy of our children and leaves them not enough brain space and emotional resources to deal with the other things that are going on in their lives. And that really struck me. I really need to ponder that. And again, wish I knew that when, particularly with the holidays, and even in my own family, some of the most traumatic memories, particularly for a few of my children who are siblings, one of the worst memories they have is something that happened at the holidays.
Mhm.
And so it happened at Christmas. And so here I am trying to make, the first year that after they're adopted, trying to make Christmas so happy, and everyone is acting morose, and
Mhm.
I can't understand what is going on.
Right.
Everyone is sour. They had not yet trusted me enough to share this story with me, so I didn't know just the Christmas prior something so terrible had happened to them. So can you unpack that a little bit more, and give us some advice about that?
Okay. Well, the thing we have to remember, and it really all stems from the first chapter in my book, and the base epiphany that I had many years ago when working with these children is, and that is that we're not, from their perspective, we are not supposed to be in their lives. If
Mhm.
the world worked the way it should, they
Mhm.
wouldn't know us. They
Mhm.
would still be with their biological family.
Mhm.
So when we go into the holidays, it's particularly hard for them, even if they don't have the bad memories that you talked about, even
Right.
if before their family times were okay. Um,
Mhm.
what they're dealing with now is their world is just out of kilter.
Right.
And no matter how wonderful we are not supposed to be there. And all kids have this need. I call it a primal need because it's at a
Mhm.
level that is just not reachable by logic.
Right.
And that need is to have an intact biological family.
Right.
And you see kids deal with that in different ways. Some of them run away and keep trying to go back to their biological family. Some keep trying to recreate it. Some will blame you because you are the one in their life and you're not supposed to be there and you're not their
Yeah.
parent.
Right.
And there's just a lot going on with these kids that we can't control and we can't help. And so we have to understand we can't take it personally. It's just like the law of gravity is not our fault. It's not our responsibility. All
Mhm.
we can control with the law of gravity is how we respond to it and
Right.
whether or not we recognize it as
Mhm.
reality. And it's the same way with our kids. They have stuff going on that we don't know about. Many times they don't have the vocabulary to tell us what's
Right.
going on.
Right.
All they can do is just emote. And
Right.
I have a blog post up about we have a dog from a rescue group who gets incredibly anxious, and when we come home at the end of the day, she is just beside herself. She's circling and barking and circling and
Mhm.
barking. And my youngest son, who just has a way with words, looked down at her one day and said, wow, she feels ways about things, doesn't she?
Mm,
And I realized, that's the way our kids are. They feel ways about things, and that's about as specific as they can be.
mm.
And we just have to understand that that's going on, and it's not about us. So,
Well, and that brings me to the second point, which you already mentioned. You say, do not take things personally. I cannot accept responsibility for my children's decisions. Our children come to us with free will and some degree of trauma. It's so hard when you love a child, when you're trying to make everything wonderful, um, not to take it personally. At least it's hard for me.
oh, it's
Um,
incredibly hard.
yeah, I find it hard. And particularly, I get caught up in, I've done so much to make this day special. I've been cooking for 2 days.
Yep.
This is all about me giving to you. I've bought you all these gifts. I remember one of our children one time told his sibling, I always hate Christmas. I never get what I want. And I thought, goodness gracious, you know, I
All
don't
the
know.
work I've done.
Maybe I was supposed to buy you a car or something.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so how have you learned to not take it personally in those moments during the holidays where you can see that your best efforts are just sort of, falling on rocky ground?
Well, I've dealt with it a couple of ways. One is just go into it realizing that, um, to use your son's phrase, our kids will never get what they want for Christmas, because what they want is the Norman Rockwell picture
Right,
and the things they see in the TV and the movies, and we can never give them that.
right,
And so, if they're verbal and can explain it, you can sit down and say, I know this is a tough time for you. I'm sorry we're going into it. What can I do to make it better? And you
mm,
just think in terms of, can I make it better? And we just have to lower our expectations. That's,
so
first
good.
of all, that's
Yeah,
all we can be responsible for, is
right.
maybe making it better. And then the other thing is, again, we have to let go of our feelings. We have to understand, when working with these kids, that we're making one-way commitments to them.
Right,
We're not going to get anything back, partly because of their trauma, well, and partly because of their age. I mean,
right,
even biological um, children, teenagers, can be the most ungrateful um, beings on the planet, and it's just the way their brains develop, you know.
good,
And
good, correct there. There
yeah.
were other words you could have finished that sentence, but you went with beings. I'm proud of you.
but sometimes, to ask our kids to be grateful for what we do for them, we might as well just
Right,
ask them to fly.
right,
And it is simply beyond their developmental capacity. Their brains are just not there. And so we have to, and that, we just look at that in practical experiences. If they get all excited about a present for their mom and completely forget about us, it just goes with territory, you know. I used to sort of take a tough love approach to that and say, well, just, get it together and be the adult in the situation. And now I say, no, recognize your feelings, feel a little bit of grief about it, and then get your act together and be the adult in the situation. Because at the end of the day, we are the adults, and we have to make one-way commitments, and just let happen what happens. Our kids have agency, they make decisions. All we can do is control what we do for them, and then whatever response they have, it is just the response it is, just like I said, just like gravity.
yeah.
um,
I love what you say when you say our kids have agency. It's a lawyer term, but I love it. And I want to do a whole other episode just talking to you about that and some other things. In a lot of families, and I think you've shared in yours, there are children who have been in relationship but are now choosing to step
right.
away. We have that in our family.
Yeah.
where we have, you know, someone who doesn't want to connect right now.
Mhm.
And so that
It
always
breaks your
is,
heart.
yeah, it does break your heart, especially at holidays, right? So
Right.
I've learned in the journey, you know, to try to be happy with whatever's happening. But then when everybody is there, quote unquote, everybody except that person, it just somehow makes the whole bigger. You know, it's sort of the
Mhm.
elephant that's not in the room.
Right.
And
Right.
I've already heard, you know, and there's always expectation, will this
Person
year, will this
come.
person come? So there's already that anticipatory sadness, right? And
Mhm.
just the feeling of, you know, what is this about?
I know. I
Um,
know.
and so how have you managed that? Like this idea of, I too have the Norman Rockwell thing, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous because, you know, I've been married before, we have stepchildren, we have adopted children. But I too have that Norman Rockwell thing of wanting everyone to be there. How have you managed that feeling and not being able to accomplish that?
Well, the first thing is just kind of the hard-headed, it's not going to happen, so I just have to adjust to it, and I have to control my feelings. I control the only thing that I can control.
Mhm.
And sometimes with my kids, the estrangement has been they blame me because I set
Of course.
boundaries.
Yeah.
And you know, I love you, I care about you, but I'm not giving you any more money.
Right.
And so it gives them an excuse to blame me. So I have to not buy into that, and realize that I am doing the right thing by having healthy boundaries. And
Mhm.
then the other thing that I realized, one of our kids is actually my husband's older kids are his stepchildren. His ex-wife was a widow with 3 kids when he married her, and so those are technically his
Double
stepchildren.
layer.
Yes, double layer. We have a
Wow.
very very complicated family tree. But as I say to the boys, I'm not your mother, but you are my sons. This is
Hmm.
the way
I
we're
love
putting
that.
our family together.
I love
So
it.
in a discussion with my sons one day, talking about that other person who was estranged, I made the comment. I said, you I really I had this epiphany, and it made me very sad for that person. I said, you guys accepted your stepfather. You
Mm.
guys have a father because their biological father had died. Um, but your sibling is out there without a father. They have chosen to be
Right.
fatherless. And then one of my kids, the former foster kids that I long-term kids that we've established a family relationship with, um, eh, has again, that's one of those kids who's gotten mad at me. I think I say in the book, 2 of our 7 kids have chosen to not be part of the family anymore. That person doesn't have a mother.
Mm.
you know um they have chosen to be without a family, and I learned it makes me sad for them rather than for myself.
Mm.
And that change in perspective, um it made a difference for my ability, because I don't take it personally. I can move forward being sad for other people, and still be happy for what I have
Yeah. Not be
during those
crushed by
holidays.
the weight
Right.
of the
Because
sadness of that.
yeah, it's not the rejection, because when I put it in that perspective, I realized it's not that they're rejecting me, they are rejecting that role.
Ah,
And they are choosing to go through life without a person in that role. And
yes.
it's not very logical when you think of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard. It's really hard. And that
Oh,
brings
it's
me
very
to,
difficult.
yeah, that brings me to one of the things you said that I I just had to sit there and process, because you actually say children will make their own choices regardless of anything we do or say. there is no such thing as failure or success in parenting. And I thought, well, that goes against every book I've ever read. That's how
It
to,
does, doesn't it?
yes, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you because, we feel that pressure of success to be a successful second mother, to make the holidays successful, to make everyone happy. And so, um, I've just been reflecting on that. There's no such thing as failure or success at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and to
No,
not think about at the end of the night when we're sitting there and I'm saying to my husband, "Wow, that was a success," to not try to get there, to not even
right.
be shooting for that. So, what am I shooting for?
Well, I think you're shooting for balance and reality.
Mm,
I push back against. We've just got so much competitive parenting these days.
ah,
My in my grandparents' generation, they sort of, when you had large families, they sort of expected that one or the two of the kids was going to go off the rails and be a black sheep, and it just
it's
was
just
the
kind
way
of,
it went.
they just knew, right?
They just
Well,
knew.
we just raised ourselves. I mean, when I think of how I was raised and that what my parents did for me compared to what I did for my kids, it's just ridiculous. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
another
my
world.
parents met today's definition of neglect by,
Yeah. Hmm.
and not. I mean, we were physically taken care of, but I
Right.
got to roam all over the place
Sure.
unsupervised.
Sure.
They, by today's standards, that they would be
Right.
arrested for not
My mother
supervising me
like,
properly.
used to say, "Come home when the street lights turn
Yep,
on."
yep.
Other than that,
So
she had no idea where we were.
right, exactly. And I
Mhm.
think it was much more healthy because it was healthier for the kids, not only because it taught them how to make their decisions earlier at an earlier age, but I think them they need to be important, but they don't need to be the center
Wow.
of your life and your decisions. And that carries over to the holidays in the sense that, we have a lot of people to take care of in our family, and that includes
Right.
us.
Yeah.
So we can't focus too much on the kids who make bad decisions. And
Right.
the best we can do is increase the odds for our kids.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's not enough, and that is really incredibly hard. But from a Christian perspective, even Jesus had his Judas, and we can't take responsibility for all of someone's decisions, and that's hard for me as someone who has been accused unfairly of being a control freak. I don't admit to it, but but it is hard for me to admit that I can't fix things
Mhm.
for my kids,
Yeah.
that I can't read all of these books and do all of these things
Right.
and fix their trauma. And that has been one of the hardest lessons, is realizing they will accept or reject things.
Mhm.
There's a scene in C.S. Lewis's The Last Battle that has much more resonance for me after being a foster parent and step parent than ever before. When I read as a kid, it didn't mean a lot, but that is the scene where the dwarves are sitting. It's the very end as everyone's heading into the new Narnia, and the dwarves are sitting there insisting that they're inside a shed eating moldy potatoes, and they cannot see what everyone else can see. They insist that they are being held captive inside this moldy shed, and that it's everyone else's fault. And that's the way I feel sometimes. I'm saying to my kids, look, there's this wonderful land and bright vista in front of you. And they look at me and say, what are you talking about? I'm inside these constraints with these terrible things. And you, by the way, aren't fixing it for me.
Wow. Wow. There's just so much to unpack there. We have to wrap up this interview, but I'm excited to talk to you more. You mentioned Judas. We have a video in this series called The Judas Test that I did with another amazing second mother author. And just really talking about how do you survive that Judas test when
Yes.
the very person that you love the most is the one speaking against you. And
Right.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the holidays. One of our strategies for this year was just to invite a whole bunch of other people. So if some of
Yes.
our people don't show up, there's still lots of people, because I need lots of people. So we'll see
That's what we do
if
too.
that goes over like a lead balloon, or if it works. It takes some of the pressure off. We'll see. Thank
Yep.
you so much. And I look forward to welcoming you even more into this community. Thank you for coming to our gathering in Cincinnati in September. And I just look forward to talking to you more and learning more from you. I'm just very grateful that
Thank you
I
so much.
found your great work.
I am grateful that you showed up in my inbox one day.
That's my role. All right. Bless you.
Thank you.